All right, thanks everyone. My name's Kyle Campos. I'm the Chief Product and Technology Officer at CloudBolt. Today talking about how AI and automation are helping us expand into the next sort of generation of need and efficiency here in FinOps. Before joining CloudBolt, I run lots of technology teams at different companies, and in my background, I always had the unfair advantage of creating FinOps teams underneath the technology umbrella. So a lot of my perspective that you'll hear me kind of talk through here is through that lens of engineering in tight collaboration with FinOps teams. And we'll talk about some of the real friction points of what happens when that's not the case here. So first, to talk about some of the landscape that we operate in here. So Cloud Plus is certainly a real dynamic. Our customers have been there for a long time, and so our platform that we developed spans all of the public clouds, private cloud FinOps. We reach into the data center, we extend into SaaS. So we had to do that because our customers have felt that pull and that stretch of their scope for quite a long time. And as I list those things, sometimes that starts to sound like that's just one more bit on the pile, and that's one more thing. But really what that is another dimension of bits that gets piled on each time you extend that scope. And so this is where you really start to get that overwhelmed feeling of when that scope starts extending. And there's been a lot of great, I think, conversation in FinOps X this year, Barcelona before that, et cetera, around the tension that creates. But our audience is expanding. Those we have to collaborate with is expanding, and this stretches us pretty thin. And the reality is we can feel like that we're getting stuck in this sort of first gear mode, right? Where our jobs are reduced to being in this report factory. We're, hyper reactive. We're chasing down people in the hallways. We're begging for this, that. We're firing JIRA tickets left and right, setting notifications on any progress that might happen on that ticket. And I know, this is a judgment-free zone, so that shouldn't make any of us feel bad. I talk to customers every day that are in this scenario. But I do want to remind us that FinOps is the ops part of that is DevOps, and one of the three ways of DevOps is called systems thinking. And this is all my background, so I feel particularly passionate about this dynamic. Systems thinking mean we might be acclimatized to this where it's normal, like yes, I'm trying to engage with engineering. It's not working. This is normal, but it's still not optimal, and we can't get comfortable accept that as this is as good as it gets. That's called local optimization. We have to think of the entire system. So there's a metaphor here that I often use. Show of hands, please. And the rest of this talk will go terribly if nobody knows what I'm talking about here. But Interstellar. Do people know Interstellar? Does everybody watch this? Okay, enough hands. Thank you. Last night, one of my coworkers who will go unnamed told me she'd never seen this. And I was, as the kids say, I was shook. I was shook by that. Clearly, some internal education I got to do here. So we have this two-speed reality, this sort of like time shift that happens, right? At Miller's planet, they go down to that planet because the gravitational pull, there's this time shift element. And this is kind of the orbit that we exist in when it comes to insight, what we call this insight to action loop or orbit. So there's really 4 legs of this, and one of them is the leg from when there's a change in conditions to us becoming aware of that change. So our insight, like, okay, change in existing circumstances or conditions in our cloud, now we have that insight. Now the next leg is evaluating that. Is that a good change? Is that neutral? Is that bad? Right? And there's a whole bunch of parameters that go into that. You can't bring the same thinking into public cloud as you can in a private cloud, into Kubernetes as you can VMs or serverless, all of those contexts are different. Once you get through that evaluation and you know whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, then you have to prioritize what to do about that, right? Very often in that first gear, that's just lob over a JIRA ticket and pray, hope, beg, chase down in the hallways for something to happen about it. Once that is prioritized, then there's the actual time it takes to act and resolve that, measure it, and you're back into that loop again with another set of conditions. So in this loop, what ends up happening though, is that that's really a stream of events. Nothing is static, especially as you get more cloud native. Everything's moving faster and faster. So you start to get this pile up and you're looking at a report from whether it's an hour ago, a day ago, week, month, doesn't really matter. It's stacking up and you're not able to get through that leg fast enough. And so now you start to feel overwhelmed with the amount of things that you have on your plate, and the prioritization, pressurization becomes more. I just heard somebody talking about carrot and stick dynamics, right? This is escalation emails and Slacks to managers to say like, I don't know how many times I have to tell this person or this team or whatever that we're losing N number of dollars every minute, every hour, every day, right? And that's a natural result of that type of pileup. Now the pain here actually compounds because that action loop often opens up a whole nother one with a different team, right? The engineering teams, now they got to do their process. Like, okay, I agree with you. I should do something about it. And now you're off into that secondary loop. And so this problem compounds every hour. So what do we do about that? So in Interstellar, there was that wormhole, right? That like opened up the opportunity. Like you can't possibly make up this amount of distance and do that. And then that wormhole appears like, oh, well, now we have a way. So the continuous optimization, I also call this kind of that inner loop, sets up this two-speed dynamic where you're saying, okay, what if we weren't, as humans, trying to evaluate and manage each leg of that loop, but instead we had machines, AI and ML, we had automated policies, et cetera, that was managing the flow of that stream of changes and deciding what was right to do based off of the guardrails and policies that we configure. Well, that opens up a lot of opportunities for us, right? So there's a few applications of this. We heard some talks about Kubernetes and how necessary it is in that context. And the only reason that is true of Kubernetes is because the pace of change, the scale and size of Kubernetes is such that you can't even hope to have impact in a manual optimization loop. When I was setting up the initial landscape slide, I was trying to describe a paradigm that shows it's even worse than that. It's more hopeless to try to do that manually across the growing scopes we have. And so you have to decide that the paradigm needs shifting here. So in our case, that insight loop, we deploy machine learning to be able to evaluate that stream of insights across your entire tech landscape that's able to do that analysis, right? Is this good, bad, or indifferent? Is this an expected seasonal change of conditions or is it not? It's able to evaluate that continuously. This isn't every day you're loading up a report that you're going through one by one. This is just a continuous flow of insight. That evaluation part is now handled by how you've configured automation policies, right? So now you're able to set up thresholds and things that are meaningful in your business context. I often talk about this when teams and people talk to me. All of this is very similar in the continuous delivery CI/CD days when we were trying to convince people that manual deployments were broke. It was a broken paradigm and you can't possibly get changes out that way. We navigated through that through the very same concerns. I would also often say, codify your concerns in the pipeline. Whatever your anxiety is around what's safe to do, what tests need to exist, codify that in the pipeline, because if it's not in the pipeline, it's not real, right? And this is the same type of dynamic when we think about in the optimization side. If you have concerns about like, well, you know, so-and-so team needs to become aware of this before we do that. Or I think we're not sure how accurate this insight may be. You have to turn those concerns and those anxieties into codified policies. And our platform makes that very extensible so that you can make sure whatever your organization, your application's context is, whatever those teams' concerns are, you can get that codified in those automation policies. Then the prioritization happens because this is all event-based. This is streaming, right? So as soon as the evaluation is done, the action is teed up in an event queue. You're not asking anybody for favors to prioritize this. This is just declarative. It's going to happen because you've already configured the policy. And then the action happens as soon as it's first available opportunity. Maybe you have change windows you want to protect against and all those types of things. You can definitely codify that in the automation. But the point is we get out of that sort of Jira jail dynamic, out of that people begging and you know, stick dynamic, where the right thing is now the easy and default thing to do. So why is this important? Hopefully it's obvious, but it is nonetheless still true and important for us to realize that there's a few sides of this coin. So one is, and I heard another talk talking about this, but that what we call the insight to action lead time metric, that the time it takes to sort of circumnavigate that entire loop, there is a massive difference between navigating that in 3 hours versus 3 days, versus 3 weeks, 3 months. Most enterprises I talk to, when we walk them through that measuring process, it's definitely the months time frame that we're in. Often it's quarters. And more often than we like to admit, the answer is it's never closed. All we do is talk about what should be optimized, and we never actually get around to doing it. So even if we take a sort of conservative stab at where most enterprises are at, let's say it's a monthly process. We show up with a monthly optimization report. We beg engineering to take the top 2. And let's say they immediately prioritize it and they do it the next day. The difference between that 31-day insight to action lead time and 3 hours is going to be orders of magnitude of cost, benefit, and waste. So the financial benefits are certainly clear. But the other side is just as important. I talked about my background and making sure that FinOps and engineering was one unit. The other side of it is the resilience, performance, day 2 ops benefits of that. So our automation is not just recommending downscaling everything, naively trying to get the lowest cost profile. It's doing what's right for the application demands that are in your business. So that may mean scaling up at various times and providing higher resilience and less toil for your SRE teams, et cetera, less incidents, all those types of things. So you have financial efficiency, you got the operational excellence, but the business velocity impact is kind of the third critical point here. And I certainly feel a tremendous amount of urgency. I've been part of the FinOps community since the beginning days, and you know, we talked to business leaders, enterprise leaders about the impact FinOps was going to have in their business and how high leverage these FinOps teams were going to be. It's going to have massive impact for you. And we've been given a lot of rope on that for that business impact, but that rope isn't unending. And we need to have business impact that is measurable, quantifiable. We've instrumented the heck out of that loop there around KPIs. We have a FinOps performance index. an optimization score, that insight to action metric we instrument and show back to show you what your real trend is like. That business velocity is meaningful. And in order to get there, you have to make the jump from that manual loop to continuous. So, closing thoughts here. The next shift we have to make is not just an acknowledgement that our current paradigm is weak. It's that it is broken, and manual optimization is not going to get us to the next leg of outcomes that we need in our industry. The industry need has evolved, it's expanded, and we're playing catch up right now. And so really my encouragement is that we don't have to keep struggling through all of those toil elements. We don't have to beg better. We don't have to fire more JIRA tickets off. We need to shift paradigms and get into a continuous optimization loop, start codifying our world around us, the anxieties we have, and the conditions that we operate in. And so if you come down to our booth, we can walk you through a lot of those automation workflows, what that looks like, whether it's Kubernetes, whether it's cloud native actions and VMs and disks and all the normal things that we deal with, where it's public cloud, private cloud, SaaS, etc. Come down, grab me. We'll walk you through what that looks like, and yeah, we'll take you through the wormhole so that you can not be stuck and look 50 years older. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Hey everyone, producer Andrew here. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. For more FinOps X 2025 content, go check out our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and leave comments and questions for all of our wonderful speakers. We appreciate your support.